Shall I unveil myself?
Just all over again. Of course you should. Bravo, look at you. Cookie chic.
Thank you.
Halloween.
So, hi everyone. Welcome to 10 Minutes in Tinsel Town with Miz Meliz. I'm Melissa Reyes. I'm happy to have with me a very special guest. His name is Joe Moe.
It's true.
Welcome, Joe Moe.
Welcome. Happy Halloween, everybody. I'm
Joe
really
and
happy to be here.
Oh, I am so happy to have you with me, Joe. And this is just amazing. I can't get over how exciting it is because we have known each other for, I don't want to say how long, but at least 20 years. Longer.
Years.
And at that time, Joe was interested in making movie magic. We're going to be, I decided, by the way, that we're going to be talking about things that start with M.
Excellent.
M like Miz Meliz,
Mm-hmm.
monsters, and movies.
Excellent.
And Mo.
And Mo. Yep.
Okay. And Mo. So, please tell us what you do now.
Wow, it's funny when you're a kid and you start out with a hobby like, I guess some people have stamp collecting and some people have coin collecting. My hobby was always monsters, and there's a reason for that. Monsters, to me, in the entertainment industry, were the ripest with craft and art and creativity. Because to make a monster, you don't only need a great writer of characters, you also need a makeup artist and a designer, and just seem to embody all of the stuff that I love the most about movies, stuff that transports you, especially when you're a kid, into those realms of imagination. So I always was interested in monsters in movies for that reason. Of course, like many, I moved here to start my career, hoping to be in the industry and to make some monsters of my own. And it's been a long road, but I've accomplished a lot of stuff. We can talk about that, a little bit about the legacy of some of the people I know who I think are particularly important to pop culture and horror. But for me right now, I'm primarily a professional writer. My day job is writing the auction catalog for Profiles in History, which is probably the premier, it is actually the premier Hollywood memorabilia auction house. We just sold, Leonardo DiCaprio's jacket from Titanic for $60,000, and it's incredible. It's incredible the amount of money people will spend to buy their memories. But I also promoter of a show I'm very proud of called Mad Monster Party. We do them 4 times a year. It's a horror convention. I hope you'll all come out and see us. We do them in North Carolina, Charlotte. We do them in Phoenix, Arizona. And we've done them in Seattle recently, and we've also done them in New Orleans, and we'll do one in Chicago in February. So if we come anywhere near you, I hope that you'll make the trip and come see us. It's a lot of fun. Finally, my writing.
I will link up to that to
What's
get
that?
the details.
I will.
I will link up to that to have all the details.
That'd be
too.
great. The more the murkier, as I like to say. But I also write for Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, which is the granddaddy of all horror magazines, and actually the longest published entertainment magazine in the country, probably the world. And I'm very proud to be one of the co-editors of Mad Monster magazine, which is sort of my tribute to the horror genre for kids and families to sort of enjoy, cut out paper things and models and toys. You can build the Psycho house. And so I'm busy making stuff all the time.
Making stuff. Now that's kind of how it all started. I remember you made models and in fact, little known fact, you actually fixed the wedding cake topper for our wedding cake. Do you remember that?
I did, yeah.
We still have it thanks to you.
That was your family.
Yeah, and then yeah, family heirloom. It really so that's memories, another M.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, what is it that you currently in your life now, what are you most passionate about?
What am I most what about?
Passionate.
Oh, passionate. Probably.
What is your life's passion?
My passion used to be a very self-centered pursuit. I really wanted to create and tell stories. And it has turned, with ongoing years, it has turned to a feeling of really wanting to inspire younger people and new generation of people to open themselves up to classic literature and monsters, which have some of the greatest morality tales there are in literature, and open themselves up to some of these classics, and so that our future can be informed by our past, which is very rich and very steeped in a lot of things that never go out of style. Just like Shakespeare is relevant to today, into the conflicts, into the emotional, connections and disconnections and politics of the day. Horror and monster movies also are very, very relevant to a lot of life experience of the modern world. So yeah, continue to create, which never has a shelf life. You can do that hopefully till your last breath, but also inspiring, a new generation of people to continue to do it, because then I get to watch more stuff.
What would you say is your number one influence as far as literature in horror?
I would have to say, as a kid growing up in Hawaii, which is about as small town as you can get, and dreaming of Hollywood. I had show business parents, so I did have a little connection to it. But probably a magazine called Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. I mentioned it earlier. I'm proud to be able to contribute to it today. But back then, in a time when all of Hollywood, which you've always loved, Ms. Mel, you've always loved, Hollywood and glamour and all that stuff, and the magic of the transformation of Hollywood, as evidenced by your lovely get-up today. Famous Monsters turned the spotlight. My mentor, Forrest J. Ackerman, who we can talk about, turned the spotlight from the stars who were on the covers of every photo play and every entertainment magazine. He turned it around, turned it on the makeup artists, the writers, the directors, people that actually built the monsters and created the monsters. And he gave all of us not only a sense of wonder, but he gave us a sense that we could participate, that we could actually do this. And that was a magical thing for many, many people of my age. And some of these kids grew up to be people you might have heard of, people like Steven Spielberg, yeah, him, and Guillermo del Toro, and John Landis, and Gene Simmons of Kiss, and Kirk Hammett, and we can go on and on. Tom Hanks, Tim Burton. We can just rattle off all the movers and shakers in Hollywood today, and many of them will tell you that their first spark of inspiration was this magazine, this monster magazine.
And that was what that's what started it all for you. So that's fantastic. And you're still working, we're actually working with it now. What a wonderful lifetime dream goal that you've achieved. And you're influencing others.
And look at us. We've known each other a long time, and it comes full circle. We find a way for the edges of this circle, no matter how far apart our lives take us, at the end it comes back, at the end, at some point, it comes back and we find a way to talk together again. And you're doing this entertainment show. I'm working in the little niche of the entertainment industry that I love so much. And, we've maintained these friendships and these relationships because of our common love of these things for a long time.
Yes, and I really believe that, we can achieve anything, and sometimes we need a little help from our friends. And good friends who care about you from day one, like a good person like yourself, is always willing to help somebody else. And sometimes we need to ask for help. And I learned that I'm not afraid anymore to just say, hey, let's help each other out. So, you can always do that. And I also find it so fascinating to talk to people that I've just met, that I've never known before, and I learn that we have a common thing, a common connection. But when I get to talk to somebody who I do know and have seen grow up, it's such a pleasure to see where we are now. So, what is your favorite thing to do right now for you? Even aside from your job and your work in the horror industry and in movie memorabilia, lots of M's, memorabilia, what do you like to do just to relax, just to have some fun?
Well, I depend on my friends. I'm not a loner at all. I've never been one of those people that likes to be alone. I'm one of those people, I have friends that I call them scouts. They'll travel all over the world, and they'll come back and they'll say, oh, I was here and I saw this and I did this. I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that's there If I'm alone and I'm going, look at that, and I turn to tell somebody and there's nobody there and I feel freaked out. I need to be with people as much as
I
possible.
know what you mean.
You know, that's how I am. Alone, I am like that 4-year-old kid in the grocery store, lost mom and wondering if she's ever going to come back for you. That panicky thing. I need to be around people.
Oh.
And
Uh-huh.
you know, my friends are incredibly nurturing, wonderful people. The thing we do most of all is we like to sit around and laugh at the most inappropriate things possible.
Well, that hasn't changed then. You've always been that way. Let me ask you, do you still sing?
Yeah, you know, I've been a professional singer for. It's so funny; it never comes up in these conversations. I've done studio work for everybody. I've done studio work for Disney, done a lot of singing. I've never been a really hyper competitive person, so luckily my friends understand my abilities and talents, and they'll call me up for jobs here and there. You know, I've done a lot of stuff, and I continue to whenever I'm asked to. I have my own record, CD. I'm very proud of. And you know, I'm always up
What is it called?
for doing work, huh?
What is your record called?
Well, it's called Mainland, and it's kind of a like avant vaudeville, kind of avant-garde Hawaiian kind of pop music, weird music record. And you know, that sounds very obscure, but the fact of the matter is, I've never had the kind of voice. I've always had the pretty voice. I mean, that's open my mouth up, and that's what comes out. So I'm sort of a throwback to the crooners, but my sensibilities and things I like are very modern and very abstract and somewhat experimental. So it's a kind of a juxtaposition that it's a blessing and it's a curse. People that really like it get it and they love it. And then there's other people who like a part of it but can't get behind some of the other more far-flung parts. And so they're like, oh, you sing really well, but you know the next sentence if they were going to say it would be, but the music's really weird or whatever. So it's that kind of thing. But you can get it on Amazon. You can get it at CD Baby, or you can get it on Amazon. Joe Moe, Mainland. I would love it if you listen to it. It's great.
I would love to listen to it. And do you link to that from your website?
Yeah, you can link to it from my website.
Your website?
And it's a, you know, talking about friendships, the genesis of that album is really interesting because I have some great musicians that I've worked with. I've sung their songs. I've worked with them. We've experimented together. We've played together. You know, and one of my mentors is Van Dyke Parks, who wrote with the Beach Boys with Brian Wilson and had a career, you know, terrifically, you know, stellar career in the 60s and still composes. He did the string arrangements for U2 for Rattle and Hum, and he's a magnificent being, and he's just, I mean, he's a true American composer. And we were at a dinner one day with some of my other friends, and we just sort of shamed everybody. Said, everybody has a record but Joe Moe. We must make him an album, and we must make it for cheap. So that's how my CD started. And I said, okay, well, let's do that. And the content will be a couple of songs I've written with friends, but mostly songs that my friends have let me sing or I wish they'd let me sing throughout my career. And that's the basis of it.
See? A little help from your friends.
That's right. Right back to that.
That's a very nice story. Yes. That's wonderful. So tell me what it's like editing the auction catalogs. I think that, you know, everybody is really interested in those golden finds, you know, like antiques and memorabilia and things that had special meaning to us that once belonged to someone. And you get to deal with this on a daily basis. What is it like for you? What is your part in the – there's a lot of questions. Sorry. I've got so many questions. What is your part in the editing process?
Well, you know, I can't call myself the catalog writer because there's so many people that contributed to it. There's so many pieces. This last auction, we had almost 2,000 items, and it would be impossible to process that much. So I write a lot of the descriptions, which means there's a lot of handling of the items, research, measurement, knowledge of materials and things. It's really fun to get up close with this stuff. I pretend that it's all mine for 3 months, and then it gets sold, and then a new collection comes in. Because I could never afford any of that stuff. I mean, there's millions of dollars worth of things. And as you kind of alluded to, and I think I said at the beginning of your show, we don't sell stuff. We sell memories. You know, people are trying to recapture these things that meant so much to them, and you can see the generational interests. Goonies. There's a huge generation of people that love Goonies. Always a big suite for Star Wars. Always a big suite of Indiana Jones stuff. You know, there's always these chunks of stuff that have general interest, and then there's the little specific things. Like for me, we sold one of Jack Lord's Y50 badges. I would have loved to have that, you know, because that's where I'm from. I would have loved to have that. I grew up, I was on my dad was an extra on the show. I saw them film a lot. I probably was in some of the background stuff. So, I mean, that's what I mean, you know, there's
I didn't know that.
stuff.
Yeah. Wow. And how fun? Do you have fun? Is it fun?
You know, it is, it's getting to be more fun. I've been there a few years now, and the learning curve was really hard. It's a lot of work and a lot of time. And it's intensive to make it accurate, to make sure the provenance is correct, and to get the thing printed in time to promote it and to have an auction. It means everything's accelerated. It's not like regular publishing where you have 6 months to proof something. You got to do it in 3 weeks, you know, and it's all hands on deck, and it's pretty grueling, but it's really, really interesting, fascinating. I learn a lot. I feel very accomplished in being able to do it. I've never done that kind of what I call technical writing. I've always been a creative writer. So it's been great. I basically put all the text together, send it to the catalog. They lay it out. We have a conversation and adjust it because we're trying to compress. You know, the art of writing a catalog is you're trying to compress everything you want to say to that big so that the real estate is reserved for the picture. You know, you want the image to be the thing.
Right.
So yeah, it's been really interesting.
Well, it's work still, so you know, you have it's have to feel like work, I guess. So, but do you get to go? Do you go to the auctions?
I bid. I'm on the phone bidding for
the actual auction.
You know, so I'm there. If you guys tune into an auction, you'll hear the auctioneer, my friend Stacy, screaming at me all the time, Joe Moe, stop yawning, or whatever. You know, you'll hear me going, you know, 20,000, 40,000. We just, you know, we're back there pretending we're winning for a second, and it's, you know, our clients are passionate. They really want to get this stuff. So there's something for everybody. I've also had a friend call who wanted this Disney program that was in pristine condition. First bid, $100 she got it for. So there's something for everybody. You should never count yourself out.
Wow. Wow, that sounds really neat.
Exciting.
That's really neat. And so, if I wanted to, is that online? Is it streaming online? Like I can go see it?
Yes. Now, you know,
from my home.
We keep the consigners and the bidders confidential. So you won't see a picture of the auction room, but you'll see a picture of the auctioneer. He'll be doing the live call. He'll be telling you what's up and how much is in the book so far and what the next bid is, and you'll hear the room, but you won't be. You could come to the room. You can come to the live auction if you want in Calabasas and sit in on it too.
I would love to do that. We'll have to talk about that. You'll have to let me know. Yeah, that sounds like a fun thing. Everybody should experience that, I think. I mean, I feel like I know what we're talking about because I've seen it in films and in TV and stuff. But I've been to auctions at like gala events or fundraisers, but never in this type of setting. It would be a blast. But Lido probably wouldn't want me to go.
To register. I mean, come in and sit down. But don't get a paddle. Don't register. No, you should. Everybody, I mean, you should all. I'm bidding for other people. I have a paddle in back because if that thing comes and goes that I could have got for $100, I'm never going to forgive myself. So I'm always prepared with a paddle. Everybody should.
Right.
I mean, there are deals to be had for sure.
Well, please tell me about your personal collection. What is your favorite item? And you've got a gentleman over your shoulder right there, and I know you have some other things to share with me.
That's a resin
and the viewers.
Bust. Yeah, that's a resin bust by a sculptor named Miles Tevis, who's brilliant. You know, all of my collection is made up of things that people have given me. I've always known such intensive, world-renowned collectors that I've never had to own anything myself. I sort of visit their stuff. But I do have some precious things that are given to me, and I value those most of all.
Okay.
And I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about Horace J. Ackerman, the man who edited Famous Monsters of Filmland, and who was the mentor of all of those famous directors and people that we spoke about earlier. They consider him their mentor, even if they've never met him, because he was so nurturing and so generous in sharing the whole genre with us and educating us about it and educating us about movie making. Forrest J. Ackerman was not the speaker that came out of pop culture. He was a kid back when people didn't collect things, when science fiction was being invented. And he was passionate. He'd get mail twice a day, and he'd send mail twice a day, and he'd correspond with all the great writers. He made friends with a 10-year-old Ray Bradbury, who was selling newspapers and couldn't afford to go to any of these events, and Forey made sure that he could attend. And Ray Bradbury has said if there wasn't a Forrest J. Ackerman, there would be no Ray Bradbury. So that's how important this man is. How did it start for Forey? Well, he was like us. This little kid, preteen kid. One day he was down in LA at a newsstand, and this very issue of Amazing Stories from October 1926 jumped off the newsstand, it grabbed hold of him, and what he would tell you is well, you don't know this, but in those days magazines talked. And this magazine said, "Take me home, little boy, you will love me." And Forey took this magazine home and read it from page to page, started corresponding with the publishers, made friends with everybody in fandom. In those days, they sometimes would publish the addresses of people like you, and you could be pen pals with them. Well, flash forward, after helping create the genre, Forey Ackerman starts publishing the very first issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. This is Forey's magazine that he did with another amazing innovator named James Warren, who doesn't get half as much credit as he deserves. The reason my dad brought me my first issue of Famous Monsters is because the layout, graphic content was so amazing. That's all James Warren. But Forey Ackerman was like our uncle. We'd see him in the pages of this magazine. He'd tell us stories. If he ran into Walt Disney in Hollywood, he'd stop him and say, "Oh, Mr. Disney, my fans would want to know, did Bela Lugosi have anything to do with the Chernobog in Fantasia?" And Disney would say, "Well, yes, we had him in to do some film tests." And Forey was always working for us, working to give us a better understanding, to connect us, to make sure that we felt like we were a part of this or could be. So Forrest J. Ackerman also established...
And you still call him Uncle...
I call him Uncle Forey.
I'm so sorry. You still refer to him as Uncle Forey. Yes.
Uncle Forey. And
that's so cool.
So does John Landis, so does Steven Spielberg, so do all of them. I was at the opening of the Science Fiction Museum in Seattle, and Steven Spielberg was there, surrounded by an entourage of 40 people, and old Forey was there. This was probably 8-10 years ago, and couldn't get his attention. And I knew that he was going to leave, so I just yelled, "Steven, Forey!" And Steven Spielberg turned around, and the whole crowd parted, and he came over and grabbed Forey by both hands, and he said to his son, "Come here, come here. This man and Grandpa are the reason I make films." So that's how important Forrest J. Ackerman is. Steven Spielberg read Famous Monsters and wrapped his sisters up in blue toilet paper and made his first mummy movie. You know, Guillermo del Toro wrote Forey. Guillermo del Toro wrote Forey a letter when he was 14, 15 years old, begging him to adopt him. I mean, these people really had an affinity for Forey, the material, and through this magazine and the hundreds of issues afterward that followed, they found out that they weren't the only one that liked the stuff that they liked. Over and over again, your kids say, "I thought I was the only one that liked Frankenstein's monster. I thought I was the only one that was a Creature from the Black Lagoon fan." Guillermo del Toro says that. You know, that he realized he wasn't the
same thing.
Huh?
The same thing. So what you're basically saying is that they were the original bloggers.
They were. Forey would
reaching out to people.
Yes, and in those days like today, it's interesting you say that. In those days like today, Forey could write to the president of Universal, who would write him back and say, "Well, kid, you know, maybe you should wait till you see this new movie, Frankenstein, before you ask me for the stills." But, I mean, he would have correspondence. He would correspond with H.P. Lovecraft.
Right.
You know, he would correspond with H.G. Wells.
Right.
He would go and meet Edgar Rice Burroughs. You know, he would be aiding the careers of Ray Bradbury and helping agent Heinlein's work and A.E. Van Vogt's work. And all these incredible people that are just icons now. You know, he's friends with Harlan Ellison. You know,
that's what I love about what I do and about blogging and the internet, because when we were growing up, that was it was hard to just contact somebody. But you can reach anybody, or at least their agent now. And when I wrote my book, This is the Sound of My Soul, I wanted to use that as the title, but I, loved, how I've always loved Spandau Ballet and new romantic music, and I was able to, on social media, track down Gary Kemp and ask permission to use that title of my book, and it just, that is something to me that seems so new, but what you're bringing up is how that tangible one-on-one relationship was something that was really from our past. And that type of influence is amazing. I love this story. So what else can you share with me that you have? Those are really priceless.
Those magazines are
historical
incredible.
Pieces
Here
you
is
have.
Forey. I'll show you some images for you. This is Forey's life mask. That's the man. This is Forey at about
freaky.
40 years old. This was made by a man named Don Post at Don Post Studios. Don Post is the guy that made those over-the-head deluxe monster masks that we all coveted and all wanted. And the company has recently gone out of business, but it had a long run. And in fact, he made, we'll do a little quiz now. That's Uncle Forey. Now I'm going to hold up some of the other masks, which I inherited these from Forey. They're my prized possession. I love them. I love looking at them. I love looking at them in his house. I'm going to hold up some faces and see how many you or our listeners can identify. Are you ready? We'll start with easy ones.
Okay, I'm ready.
Here's the first.
Okay.
Left in the chin.
Oh, that's yeah.
I know you are going to be able.
Oh, the silhouette, right? What's his name?
His name starts with.
Oh, so bad.
Bela Lugosi, Dracula.
Bela Lugosi.
That's his life mask.
That one I wouldn't know.
No, yeah, sure you would.
Wow.
You saw him in Ed Wood. You saw Martin Landau.
Of course I did, but
another one.
This is going to be tough for me without my glasses, Joe.
You can guess.
I need a viewer to help. Come on, put it in the chat box,
This is the
somebody.
man who played the monster that was created by a teenage girl named Mary Shelley.
Oh, the Frankenstein monster?
You're good. Yes, a teenage girl wrote Frankenstein. I don't know if Frankenstein ever wrote that.
That's right.
Everybody's favorite. You know who that is?
That's cool. Oh, somebody just wrote Boris Karloff.
Yes, it was Boris. But who is this?
Who's that one?
You know who this is? His last film, I
Who
believe,
is that?
Edward Scissorhands. We love him. I just watched him in Madhouse last night.
Edward Scissorhands?
Yes, he was the doctor in Edward Scissorhands. Do you remember?
Vincent Price?
Yes, it's Vincent.
Vincent Price?
No.
Oh, I think Lito got that one.
I'm doing my terrible voices to help
That's
you
pretty
out,
awesome.
So. Here's one. You know what this is with the bug eyes? You got to guess. You know you can do it. Who is it?
Oh.
He's also in Casablanca.
God.
Hide me, Rick.
I didn't know there was going to be a test, Joe.
No, it's a fun test.
See, look at that one.
In the best spirit of Forey, it's not really a test. It's so that if you get a test next time, you'll know. This is just a sharing.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that. I want to make that into a meme.
That's for your Laura. Okay, now we're gonna...
You know what, Joe? I just think these are freaky.
Well, they are, and I'm glad that you find them that way. Now we're going to get into some harder ones.
They are a little freaky. Recently, can I tell you a story while you're holding that one up?
See if any of our...
Recently, Lito and I went to visit our friend David Covarrubias at Legacy FX, which is Sam Winston's studio.
Yeah. This is Lon Chaney Jr. And what did David have to say?
Oh, we got to go to the studio where he works, and he does special effects and things, and we saw what you're holding up basically is what you call the life masks, or the but they were, made out of plaster. So they take the they take the plaster face of a character so they could do their makeup and their special effects, and then they use that. So they had them all hanging on the wall. Now, to tell me, how are these made?
These are fiberglass shells, and this is also someone from Plan 9. Who found them? I will get a flashlight from the Zoka. This is Tor Johnson, the great Tor Johnson.
Oh, Thor Johnson's mom. My mom is Thor Johnson's mom.
And here's the skinny monster. This is the father of David Carradine and Keith Carradine. This is John Carradine. How do you like that?
John Carradine. Wow. That's amazing. Did you hear me say my mom is Thor Johnson's mom?
And then here's the one that nobody ever gets except the hardest core fans.
Obscure reference.
Love it. That.
Who is it? Who is it?
That is somebody that only the hardcore fans, I know lots of my friends would know who this is. It's Glenn Strange. Also played Frankenstein's monster.
Ooh, that's...
So there's some...
That's strange.
There's some bits of Forey. Thank you, Uncle Forey. Thanks for visiting. He is. We'll put him back on his hanger.
Thank you, Uncle Forey.
Right here looking over us as always.
Those are really cool. Thank you for sharing those with me. Those are fantastic, and it's neat that you can talk about each one's history and then hold up their face. What a that's like a very close connection. Fantastic.
It is. My friend Mitch Devane, who's a makeup,
fantastic show.
Mitch Devane is definitely in the top 3 or 5 sculptors in all the industry. And he used to marvel at these masks. He used to look at them and he used to say, look at the molds and their faces occupied this space. I mean, the closest thing to them you're ever going to get. And these people who we love are always looking for anything we can squeeze out of horror films that we love. Frankenstein, or constantly going back to see if we find a clue or something, or if we find a remnant. It's really hard to do, but that's how much these films are beloved.
Wow, that's amazing.
Brian's asking, what kind of auction are we talking about? Well, Brian, Profiles in History does major Hollywood auctions.
Profiles in History.
Profiles in History. You can go to www.profilesinhistory.com. You can see our flipbook catalogs. We do sales of memorabilia from vintage things, photographs, original photographs, vintage horror photographs, everything you can imagine, right down to contemporary things, models, stop-motion puppets from Nightmare Before Christmas, all the kinds of stuff that collectors and fans love the most. We've sold a Chainsaw Massacre saw. We've sold tons of stuff. You really should have a flip through it if you like that kind of stuff. You're going to love our catalogs, and we've become the premier house for that material.
You answer the question.
Okay. It says, of today's modern directors, which do you think most follows the classics? I would have to say classic horror directors. I mean, obviously Guillermo del Toro is steeped in classic tropes and all of the stuff that he loved. You can see them in Hellboy, and he makes them very fresh. And I think James Wan also, he's in love with a lot of the old, Spookhouse tricks and a lot of the old jumps and scares, and is trying his best to innovate these things and, give the old timers like me the feeling that we're getting to visit with old stuff that we miss, and the kids the idea that they invented this stuff because they've never seen it before. So I think those are two really, really good ones. Classic filmmaking, though, I like P.T. Anderson. I mean, he's probably my favorite living director right now. I think he's just rich beyond compare. I have trouble watching his movies when they first come out because they have such a profound effect on me. I have to P.T. Anderson. I have to wait to watch his movies till I'm ready, and then I'll watch them and I'll watch them again and again. So I want him to do a horror movie. I think that would be phenomenal. It would be horrifying. So I hope that answers that question.
Tell me more about the historical tales that you were saying, morality tales of the. Tell me more about that.
Horror movies which come from literature, which is where a lot of modern movies begin, from horror literature, or classic literature, stories in classical literature that they adapt to modern times or to other scenarios and situations. But horror movies have
Examples of which?
huh?
Give me some
Well,
examples.
like, I mean, let's just give a vague example. Well, a specific example, like the way that Romeo and Juliet might be adapted to West Side Story. You know, how those,
Okay, but in the horror films genre, what is an example
an example
specifically?
specifically of how people will take. Well, I mean, in the many Draculas that have been made, you know, they all deal with the same fearsome zombies and everything. I mean, they all come back together. The fear of losing yourself, the fear of losing your personality, the fear of losing the people you love and having them disappear. All these abandonment issues, all these things are very ripe with that. And classic horror also has a great deal to do with the outsider, with the outcast. There's not too many types of literature where you can relate to the creator, the victim, and the creature. And that's a pretty rich experience when you think about it. I mean, that's a lot of involvement for a reader or for an audience. And when these things are taken into film, I think that they're heightened in a way, and that they can be. And I think that a lot of the new generation of directors, like James Wan, we mentioned, he's fairly young. I mean, I think that he's looking back now. There was a time when people abandoned all of the morality tales or the lessons that we like to learn about dabbling with nature, or being so arrogant that you think you can play God. All those things that we all worry about, cloning today, all of those things that keep coming around and around and around. I think James Wan is taking a look
Deadly
back.
viruses.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things that we become a victim to that change us and make us terrifying to the people that we love. I mean, the idea that you're a monster and you love this person and they're afraid of the way you look and they're going to run away. The idea that you get this virus and all the people that you love can't come in the same room with you. I mean, there's just so much richness in classic horror. And classic horror, the thing that classic horror has, I think, that needs to come back into the mainstream is the sympathetic monster. Monsters who are victims. Monsters who didn't ask to be the way that they are. And were made that way. Or infected. Or
Right.
or blighted or something. And there's something that we all relate to about that. There's two stories. There's the story about, for example, in Frankenstein, there's a story about a doctor in his arrogance gabbling in places that maybe he shouldn't have, without any regard for the creation that he's making. There's the creature who
so relevant today.
The creature who doesn't know, didn't ask to be made, and is in a great deal of pain and can't fit in and doesn't have the faculties to adjust, and is lonely and all of these things, and abandoned by his father. There's all those things. And then there's the idea of the victim, sitting there, being at the end of the wrath of the creature or whatever. That's pretty cool. And the person that's doing that the best today is John Logan, who is the writer of Penny Dreadful, which is a new Showtime series, which revitalizes all of the classic horror creatures. He's basically deconstructed, and put back together again all the classic monsters into one show. I like to say it's like if Shakespeare rose from the dead and wrote Dark Shadows today. That's what it's like. It's incredible. And John, I'm happy.
I'll have to check that out.
Do, please. Showtime sold it as a gothic romance, and it's a monster show. It's a monster show. It's elegant. It's beautifully written. John Logan started out as an 18-year-old playwright, won a bunch of Tonys, started in films. He wrote Star Trek Nemesis, co-wrote Gladiator. He wrote Hugo. He wrote Aviator. He wrote
Love that one.
He wrote Skyfall, that Bond movie. He's writing the next two Bond movies. He's an incredibly brilliant writer, and he's a monster fan, so this is his dream project. We got to put all these creatures in, cast beautifully. Eva Green, who's have an Oscar for sure in the next 2 years, guarantee you. Josh Hartnett, who's come back on the scene and who's transcended his heartthrobiness to be an absolutely beautiful actor who still looks phenomenal. I mean, he's a movie star. Timothy Dalton's in it. Leave Carney, who's a darling person who was opened Spider-Man on Broadway and was in it for a few years. And just incredible cast, beautiful writing, all of our favorite monsters all cohabitating together in a period piece, beautiful sets and costumes. That's my pick for all of you.
That sounds fantastic. You know what, Joe? That makes me wonder. If you could do anything creatively right now, what would it be? What would make you happiest and put all your talents to together?
Well, I sure like episodic horror. I sure like the things we're talking about, Walking Dead and Penny Dreadful and all these horror shows. But for me, I love live theater. I love the idea of something that lives in the memories of the people that see it and that becomes a story. You know, a picture's a picture, and I have great value for that. Movie's a movie. You can experience it in many different ways, time and time again. But a theater experience is different every single time. It's very personal and intimate. And that's how I live my life. I've never been an autograph seeker or let me take my picture with you when I meet famous people. I love telling the story of it. And so if I could do anything, it probably would be something serious and delightful that would be off the beaten path of musical theater, would be kind of dark, delightful, creepy, and beautiful. That would be my dream. Do that. Secondarily, make movies.
Dark, delightful. Hold on, let me get this straight. Dark, delightful, creepy, and what else?
Gorgeous.
Okay. Beautiful. And what is beautiful to you? So I just stole a question from my friend Kiara Fleece. What makes something beautiful?
That can be many things to many people, but I think that when something achieves, when something, especially something visual or oral, a sound or an image, transcends the medium and sort of lifts itself out of the crowd and presents itself to you and touches you in a way, I think that that's beautiful. And I think that some people push that very far and yucky things become beautiful. And there's something to be said for that too. But I'm really talking about bittersweet beauty. Stuff that is,
Something esoteric.
I guess. I'm not articulating it.
You're beautiful, Joe. I've always thought you were beautiful. No, you do. You articulate it just fine. And look at that beautiful smile you have.
I'm happy to be here with
you. One thing I ask all my guests on 10 Minutes in Tinsel Town is where do you like to go? And you've been traveling quite a bit throughout the States, so it could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be Hollywood. But what place would you recommend would be the coolest place for all the monster lovers to hang out?
Monster lovers. Well, I don't want to do an ad and say.
Oh, do you know anybody?
Well, I mean, for monster.
We all love
monster
monsters.
Lovers. My people. I can highly recommend, without being a snake oil salesman, I can highly recommend any of our Mad Monster parties because the spirit that we're sharing here, that is the basis of it. Now, there's lots of conventions around the country, and all of them have their merits. But if you want to go someplace where it's like an old dime store dance, man, and I'm making sure that everybody's meeting everybody they want to meet, that we all know each other, that everybody's having a good time. My partner, Eben, Kevin, Peter, all the people that work with me, who do so much work behind the scenes, they're always supporting that, making sure that everybody's happy. So that's for monster fans. I highly recommend any of our Mad Monster parties. You won't be disappointed.
The Mad Monster Party. So how does one get invited to the Mad Monster Party?
You just did, and you just did. Everybody's welcome. We hold them, 3 or 4 times a year. They're conventions. You get to meet your favorite stars and spend quality time with them. We only have nice people. If it's not fun, we don't want to do it. And that's our philosophy. We just let everything. If it's not fun, people aren't nice to each other, then we're not interested. So I love traveling. I'm going to be in Brazil in December for their very first science fiction convention in Sao Paulo. I can't wait to do that. That'll be fun.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. When is that?
I believe it's December 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th.
That's very soon.
Very soon. So I'm
Sounds fantastic. That's amazing. What an amazing life you have,
pretty good.
Joe Moe, at Go Joe Moe
Go
Go
Joe Moe Go.
on Twitter and Instagram.
Yep, my website is www.gojomo.com. You can find out more than you ever wanted to know about me, which probably isn't very much, but it's all there. And there's a question here. There's a question here.
Oh, good.
It says, what is your holy grail to find, or the one that escapes you? From Pitpat. Thank you for that question, and that's a great question. I inherited my holy grail.
Great question.
I inherited my holy grail, again, from Forrest J. Ackerman, who we've talked about a bunch, and that would be a copy of the film London After Midnight, a lost Lon Chaney Sr. film, in which he plays a really creepy-looking vampire. You can look up London After Midnight and see pictures of him in this another phenomenal Chaney makeup. That if the film had been better or saved or preserved, it might be up there with, these other iconic monster faces that we're used to seeing. But it's quite a horrific makeup, and they remade the movie into a movie called Mark of the Vampire. And you can sort of see another version of what London After Midnight would have been. That would have been, and other than that, the Frankenstein bolts that Jack Pierce had on the Frankenstein Monsters Unit. I would like to see those. See how they were made, what they were made of, how crude they were, or polished.
The Frankenstein bolts.
Yeah.
Those are lost.
Well, I wrote this book with Famous Monsters of Filmland, which is the annotated first issue of the magazine. It shows all of Corey's notes and all of the typewritten pages that went into the first magazine. And in this, it has a little map of the last house he lived in, and some pictures of the collection. You can get that through Famous Monsters. And it'll tell you a little bit about the history of the magazine, for sure.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Now, what was the other thing you were showing?
Mad Monster Magazine. That's the third issue. There's 4 of them out. There's all kinds of fun stuff in here. There's paper.
Jack?
Yeah, Jack Nicholson. There's a great, there's a great Shining article, but I wrote it. So I'll just say there's a Shining article. And you can cut.
There's a Shining article that you wrote about Shining?
Yeah. So Mad Monster Magazine, please check out that. If you get to a bookstore lately, get the latest issue of Famous Monsters of Filmland on the stands. I wrote an interview with John Logan, the writer of Penny Dreadful that we talked about a little earlier. And I'd like you to learn about him, because if you're a monster fan, you will love that. And the last plug I have to make is, I talked about Don Post Studios making those monster masks and the life masks that I showed you. This is a book by my pal, Lee Lambert, The Illustrated History of Don Post Studios. And this thing is like a Bible. It's huge. But it talks about the origins of the company with illustrated with pictures, and it's fascinating. And I'm really proud to say that I made it into the pages of this book with the mask that I made in 1982 called Schizoid. As a lover of all this stuff, wanting to be a part of it so much, for Don Post Jr., because Don Post Sr., who I corresponded with, was gone by then, to give me the chance to be a part of the company and to make something is like a dream come true for a kid like me. And I really wanted to thank Lee Lambert for including me in this book. He gave me a whole page in here, and I'll try to find it quickly. Here it is. This is my mask, Schizoid.
Let's see. Let's see.
See the two face mask? That's the ad for it.
Oh, there.
The 83 catalog. And above is the mask.
Wow.
So I get to be part of this legacy too.
That's pretty.
It's really great. You can buy these. I think
that is so cool.
Well worth it. It's if you can afford the shipping. It's really heavy, but it's worth it.
Wow, that's fantastic. And so congratulations. When did that book come
This one
out?
just came out last month. It's brand new, and
Oh, brand new on 10 Minutes in Tinsel
I mean,
Town.
they sold out of the first. They had so many orders. They sold out of it at Max Fest, and I think they probably sold out by now. But they'll do another printing, so keep your eye open for it. And say hello to Lee Lambert.
For sure. And I would love to get your autograph on it.
I'll autograph that.
I would love to get your autograph on it. That reminds me, I wanted to show you.
Uh-oh.
Well, no, this is a little thing that I have. I love to get autographs on books, and I have some Ray Bradbury books
which
here.
ones did you have inside?
When my parents, well, when these all three were signed by him, when my parents worked at they both did volunteer work at the library in Banning and Beaumont, and Ray Bradbury visited there pretty frequently and did, they had a reader's theater, and he was their guest, and so then he would sign his books, and so this one was for me.
Oh, there's that writing. I miss him. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that neat? And this is Something Wicked This Way Comes. And then I got one for Lido, or my mom, I think, gave Lido this Fahrenheit 451. And so it's signed too.
That's great.
97. Oh, it seems so long ago. This is Fahrenheit 451. And then my mom, passed away, and so I inherited her copy of The Martian Chronicles. And that has his signature too. Yeah. It's kind of. All right, Joe. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share? Thank you for sharing all the wonderful things that you're doing, and thank you for being on 10 Minutes in Tinsel Town. Anything else? Do you have any questions for me?
Just, I have a comment for you. I just think that this is such a great forum for you. You're so generous with your time. I hope your fans will contact me if they have any questions that I can answer. I'm always happy to encourage work, to share writing, to critique, and I'm a very constructive criticizer. I'm very, very constructive. I want everybody to make stuff. So, if we can come together as a community and help each other to make more scary, fun stuff, I'm all for it. I'll be there.
Scary, fun stuff, but meaningful and from the heart. And I just appreciate your authenticity and your kindness. Joe Moe, you've always been a superstar in my life, and now to catch up with you and see all of your accomplishments, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I really appreciate. And Joe Moe, may the odds ever be in your favor. So this has been.
Give up good candy.
This has been the spooky tales of 10 Minutes in Tinsel Town with Joe Moe and Miz Meliz. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Trick or treat. Well, may the odds ever be in your favor, Joe Moe. So I am a dark Effie trinket, and this was all done by my friend Valerie Williams Schrader, and she has a salon called Hair by Valerie.